It was the first time since 1994 that Syracuse and North Carolina was a top 3 matchup. The Orange won that game 30 years ago in the Dome, but today the Tar Heels prevailed in Chapel Hill, and it wasn't pretty. 14-9 the final score, and this UNC team will be the #1 team in the land come Monday, and will honestly be the betting favorite for the national championship going into the final month of the season. The Qs were completely outmatched today, and could this be that reality check for this team that they aren't a true contender, or is it just a bad day in the office? We'll break it down here, live on Orange Press Pass, and it starts right now. Welcome inside our CitrusTV studios. It's Orange Press Pass. Nicholas Waley alongside Ben Chadwick and Timmy Weiss. Fellas, this was an interesting one today. Huge matchup down in Chapel Hill. Syracuse and North Carolina, 2 against 3. And it was the Tar Heels that prevailed. Ben, your first thoughts?
Yeah, Nick, I mean, for Syracuse, single-digit goals in April will never cut it. You're in ACC play now. You're playing some of the best teams you will play all season, including what I think is the best team in the country in North Carolina, especially after this win. There's only been 2 other games this season where Syracuse has scored single-digit goals. That was in one of their 2 losses to Princeton and a narrow overtime win over Penn. Those are not performances you want to be replicating in the month of April approaching ACC play. You got 3 more regular season games to figure it out, and you got to figure it out soon.
The offense wasn't good for Syracuse, but it was really all around bad for Syracuse today. The defense, especially in that first couple quarters, just really couldn't do anything against this UNC offense. Created so many open looks. The turnovers for Syracuse as well. Just unacceptable stuff. And then Jimmy McCool going out of the game. All these problems for Syracuse. Even the faceoffs weren't going the Orange's way. Just got to be better.
And it really did start to tumble for Syracuse, particularly in that second half. But going into this one, the 34th ever meeting between these two, certainly was going to provide the fireworks. I mean, this is the biggest game of the weekend, not just number 2 and number 3 in the Inside Lacrosse poll, number 1 and 2 in RPI. And Syracuse got off to the best possible start. Got the lead from Michael Leal to make it 2-1. And just a few minutes later, Syracuse were up 3-2 with just over a minute to go in the first quarter, but that's when things started to go the other way. Just 13 seconds later, Peter Thoman fired it away under the stick of Jimmy McCool. We'll talk more about him a little later on. Tie game going into the second quarter, but then the Tar Heels put the foot to the throat of the Orange right into the bottom corner. Dominic Petramala made it 6-3 UNC, and then Nathan Shocek made it 8-3 Tar Heels on a 6-0 UNC run.
Yeah, and it was the UNC run that essentially decided this game, if we're being honest. They made over 50% of the shots they took on that run.
Now, Michael Leo got Syracuse within 3 at the break. He would finish with 3 goals on the day, but that was the only bright spark really for the Orange, because in that second half, Dominic Petramala continued right where he left off to make it 10-5 UNC. I mean, the Tar Heels were doubling up Syracuse with 12 minutes to go in the third, and then this was the point of the game where we had that big moment. Parker Hoffman made it 11-6 to UNC, and then off goes Jimmy McCool. He was replaced by Michael Ippoliti in the third quarter.
Just a really poor performance from McCool today, a 37% save percentage.
And Luke Roa would make it a 3-goal game. Well, you started to think that Syracuse would come back into this one. Roa with 2 goals on the day, but in the end, Syracuse's offense just completely sputtered at the worst possible moment. Dominic Petramala would get his 5th goal of the game to make it 14-9 UNC, the final score. A huge win for the Tar Heels. They, without a doubt, will be the #1 team in the country come Monday, and they really are the best team in the country.
Yeah, there's going to be a debate. Notre Dame had a pretty big win that I can't wait to break down a little bit later with you guys as well. But I mean, coming into this game, I really did think that North Carolina and Syracuse were the 2 best teams in the country, and North Carolina came out on top.
And there was just not many scorers that you're seeing that are the regular scorers, right? Finn Thompson, just 1 goal. Joey Spallina, 0 points. So other guys trying to step up, and it really wasn't enough for the Syracuse offense.
Well, let's welcome in our man on the ground in Chapel Hill, our Syracuse men's lacrosse beat reporter, Drew Albaugh. Spoke with you a little earlier on, my friend. We were in a more happy mood then on CC, but certainly an interesting performance for Syracuse. And particularly I want to ask you about the offense. The big three of Spallina, Thompson, Leo combined for just 4 goals today, 0 points for Spallina. I mean, what was the vibe like on the sideline on that offensive unit?
Offensive coordinator Pat March and the sideline was quite honestly in shock. There was not a lot of answers. You look over at the sideline all game long, it wasn't frustration or anger. It was confusion. This is a Syracuse offense that's put up double-digit goals in every game over the past 2 months. And today, it just wasn't it. Joey Spallina finishes with 0 goals, 0 assists. That's the first time that's happened since the Princeton game. That was almost 2 months ago. That's how bad this performance was for Joey Spallina and for this offense. This is a UNC team that absolutely shut down Syracuse in front of its home crowd. And really, there was nothing Syracuse could do today offensively.
Yeah, and Drew, the talk of the town heading into this game was the battle at the faceoff X, right? Brady Wambach and John Mullen. Wambach has been a freight train all season long, and that freight train essentially continued down in Chapel Hill today. What did you see at the midfield line that really just told the story?
UNC picks up the win 17-10 at the faceoff X, but really for the first 3 quarters of action, Syracuse kept it close. I don't think that was the big storyline in this one. Yes, Wambach got his, but John Mullen and Drew Angelo still just a little jumpy at the faceoff X early on a lot of those faceoffs. There was really just nothing going well for Syracuse today, including the faceoff. And salt in the wound, while the players were all saying hi to their families today after the loss, the clock tower over in North Carolina, the main campus, 0.2 miles away, was playing the Syracuse fight song. So that's when you really know UNC is relishing in this victory. This was a big one. At the faceoff X, defensively, offensively, Syracuse did not look like the same caliber of team that North Carolina did today, Ben.
Well, you just mentioned it, Drew, a little. Syracuse had no answer for the UNC defense today. The Orange were held to 9 goals, their fewest in over a month. What was the key to that success?
Pretty simple answer here, Timmy. Josh Marcus, the star-studded freshman for UNC, played his tail off. He was standing on his head practically the whole contest. 15 saves for the freshman. That's a season high and also a career high, hence him being a freshman, of course. You don't have to do the math there. He was absolutely excellent today for UNC. Every shot that Syracuse pelted at him, it seemed like he had an answer for. And every time the Orange started to build up some momentum, well, Josh Marcus was there yet again, especially on the other end where Jimmy McCool struggled. Yes, Ippoliti came in there. He did his thing. But Syracuse and UNC, if you want to talk about everything that went wrong today for the Orange, it was the goalies and the difference in goalie play between McCool and Marcus. That was the big difference in this one and one of the many reasons why Syracuse lost this game.
Drew, thank you so much, my friend. Amazing work today, and enjoy that sunshine and enjoy the flight home as well, my friend. All right, when we come back here on Orange Press Pass, we'll break down the full game. What went wrong for Syracuse? What went well for the Tar Heels? We'll be right back here on OPP. We're just getting started here on Orange Press Pass. Nicholas Waley, Ben Chadwick, and Timmy Weiss with you, fellas. Like, this was a game we were really, really excited about. You know, all the eyes of the lacrosse world were on this game, and Syracuse really put up a dud. They really did. And in particular, Joey Spallina. You know, and this is a guy that we have talked about week after week, year on year, has one of the best players in the country, but that lingering feeling that he doesn't show up in the big games, and he put up 0 points today.
I think you kind of took the words out of my mouth right there, Nick. He is one of the best players in the country, Timmy. He is. I don't want to take that away from him. I think he is one of the best players in the country, if not the best. But man, oh man, when defensive coordinators are able to figure him out, he is completely figured out. He is shut down. Against Princeton earlier in the season, they lost that game, and Joey Spallina had 0 points against Princeton. Of course they lost that game. Today, against Dave Petramala's defensive coordinated defense, 0 points. Of course they're going to lose by 5. Joey Spallina, he's not a guy that Syracuse needs to rely on to get 5 or 6 points every single game for them to win. But if he is completely taken out of the offense, and the offense is just flat out dysfunctional, Timmy.
And after Princeton, you really hoped that would be the last time that Joey Spallina ever had 0 points again in his career. But here we are. We never thought it would happen again, especially because Spallina had 6 points in his last 4 games, 4 of the last 5 games. But there you see it, 4 times in his career, he has just been held to 0 points. It didn't even happen last year. Now it's happened twice this year. It definitely is a concern.
It absolutely is. And in that Denver game as well, they lost the NCAA quarterfinal. You could put a lot of blame on Joey Spallina. Is he just a sophomore? Yeah, but was he the main guy and the top guy for Syracuse to rely on? Also, yes, 0 points cannot come in games this late in the season.
And this is it. This is it for that freshman class of 2022. Yeah. Joey Spallina, of course, the main figure of that recruiting class. It's put up or shut up time for them. And even today, Spallina, he didn't even control the ball really well, didn't hold on to it. 2 turnovers for him and 10 turnovers at halftime for the Syracuse team. In the end, they had less turnovers than UNC, but Syracuse didn't make the most of those Tar Heel turnovers, and that was a pretty big reason for this defeat.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Syracuse did technically win the turnover battle here, Timmy, but when you have a battle at the face-off X, we just talked to Drew about it, where Brady Wambach is pretty clearly going to dominate John Mullen, you have to win the turnover battle by way more than just 3, and you can't give up 15, bar none, right? That is something that just cannot happen. When you play this sloppy and this undisciplined on the offensive side of the ball, and you're also not getting the ball that often in your sticks, it's something that can't happen. It's a recipe for disaster. They lost the game by 5, and not holding on to possession when you have the ball in your stick is a huge reason why.
Kind of unexpected, too, because this is a Syracuse team that came into today giving up just over 12 turnovers per game, which was the 3rd best mark in Division I. So all of a sudden, today, they came out and they were making costly mistakes like losing the ball on the offensive end. Now, the big problem with these turnovers is that it eliminated even more possessions for this team, and they had no possessions already because they weren't getting the face-offs against UNC.
Yeah, I think as well here, like in the second half, Syracuse just won 3 of possible 12 face-offs, and in a lot of sense, that was a result of poor ball management and not picking up the ground balls and leading to those turnovers.
Yeah, well, they were trying to replicate the offensive play that they had against Duke last weekend as well, which is one in which they scored 16 goals in, right? I mean, the offense was humming on all cylinders, so they figured, hey, we could do the same thing behind the back goals and everything they did against Duke. You could not do that against this UNC defense, and they paid the price for it.
Yeah, when it's pretty, it is pretty for this Syracuse team. It really is. I think you mentioned it on Q's Countdown earlier that it's like the Harlem Globetrotters. But in a sense, though, at the other end, in the cage, Jimmy McCool was having a really good season, especially in the first 5 games. But recently, it really hasn't been good for Jimmy McCool, the senior. And today, he was pulled in the 3rd quarter. I mean, how important is that?
I think it's a huge story that I think we should talk about later as well. Jimmy McCool is a guy who has been the cornerstone of Syracuse. They can rely on him to be a top 10, top 15 goalie in the nation, but Timmy, 4 of his last 5 games, he saved less than half the shots he's faced. And today was the first time that the team actually lost, I would say, because of it. Right? Jimmy McCool putting up performances like that simply cannot happen. And when it happens today, UNC is going to score 14 goals, right? They could have scored way more if they had taken advantage of more opportunities, which they had in this game. It was more on the UNC's fault for not scoring 17 or 18 goals than it was Jimmy McCool playing well, because he did not play well. Just a 36.8% save percentage is unacceptable from who should be one of the best goalies in the country.
Absolutely, Ben. And the thing that knocks me on, this is a former guy that was the ACC goalie of the year last year, and now he just doesn't look like that player.
No.
Early in the season, sure he did, but recently, it's not been okay. You can see it up there. First 7, all of those goals against, and the last 5, even more goals against. The last 2 games particularly have to stand out. There was a case he could have been pulled in that Duke game, but now he had to get pulled in the UNC game because he was getting beat on low shots and getting beat. He was starting to guess a lot, and those were just not working out well for him.
Yeah, well, this is just the perfect storm for Syracuse, right? The offense wasn't clicking, and sometimes in the past they've been able to rely on Jimmy McCool. You see those first 7 games, he was playing very well, over 60% save percentage, but in the last 5, the offense has been humming, except for today. The offense wasn't there. McCool once again had a down day, and again, 14-9. That's the final score you're going to get.
No offense, no, that's not going to work.
And it ended up being a perfect storm for North Carolina because today we did see the best team in the country. UNC will be number 1 in the rankings very soon. And our OPP player of the game has put himself firmly in the race for the Tewaaraton. Dominic Petramala made 11 goals in his last 2 games against Syracuse with 5 today. He just has Syracuse's number and is leading the Tar Heels to the mountaintop. We still have so much more to get to, but Dominic is certainly going to be the catalyst for this UNC team. They look pretty phenomenal, it has to be said, and I won't be surprised if North Carolina is in that national championship game on Memorial Day weekend in just a month and a half's time. All right, still have so much more to get to though. Here on OPP, we're heading to the film room. Ben and Timmy have a lot to break down. Don't go anywhere.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream. That I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly. Just to come back in a new disguise. And be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
We're still rolling here on OPP. Welcome back. Nicholas Waley with you. Ben Chadwick and Timmy Weiss have been busy. They've been in the cutting room, ready to go. Let's go to the film room.
And you take a look at this replay angle right here. Gill's got a wide open lane to the end zone.
Yeah, there were a few plays that we have to break down, and I want to look at some North Carolina specific plays. We talked to Drew earlier about how good the North Carolina goalie today, Josh Marcus, was, a true freshman as well, and we just talked about how poor Jimmy McCool's play was today. But I want to look at what I think was the best play of the entire game by Josh Marcus. You see Syracuse here. Joey Spallina's got it, the playmaker for the Orange. Finds Peyton Anderson with the leaping shot. How is Marcus able to get over there in time? Look at the slow-mo here. Spallina's going to get it right here. Peyton Anderson wide open right there. Takes the leaping shot. Alley-oop, tries to dunk it home. 95% chance that ball goes in. But Josh Marcus, the true freshman, was somehow there to stop it. A guy that's this young, going up against a few Syracuse seniors. Joey Spallina, the senior. Peyton Anderson, already a well-established starter, although he is a sophomore. Incredibly impressive from Marcus. He was fantastic today. Saved over half the shots he faced. And another huge reason why. There's so many reasons we keep talking about here on OPP. But there's another huge reason why North Carolina won this game. Now, we go a little later in the game. The North Carolina offensive side of things. They scored a decent amount of goals today, and this was one of the biggest that they had. Right here with Brevin Wilson the dagger really is what you can consider it. An unbelievable angle from the far wing on that side. 6 minutes left to go. That puts North Carolina up 4 in the game. Just a sophomore as well. You got guys like Petramala and Duffy that take all the minutes and all the spotlight away from the top Syracuse defenders. But when those guys have the spotlight on them and the top defenders of Syracuse are focused on them, guys like Brevin Wilson can get open. That's exactly what happened right there, and that was the dagger, Timmy.
You're right, Ben. There was a lot of great plays from North Carolina today, and that's why they won the game 14-9. On the other side of that, though, Syracuse did not have the best day. So let's take a look at a couple of plays the Syracuse defense, and really all plays, were really struggling. Right here, an open man in the middle. Let's pause it right before he gets this pass. Jordan Beck moves over a little bit more this way. Where is he going? Why is he running away from the offensive guy right here? Instead, Billy DeJuan has to come all the way over. You can't even see him on your screen because he's asked to do such a tough task to guard this man, and there's not really much he could do. It ends up being an easy put away there for UNC. There you see DeJuan trying to get in there, and he couldn't. Now, let's take a look at a different play that was a little bit not really on the offensive end of things for UNC, but instead, Syracuse really playing around with not doing the best on their own defensive end. Here's Michael Ippoliti, the backup goalie for Syracuse, throws an errant turnover. Look at this. Riley Figueres somehow dives to get the ball out. Syracuse keeps it going. Figueres falls over. UNC takes over. This is what we're saying with all these turnovers today. How on earth does this play even happen? This is like a Little League game happening in Lacrosse right here. Just unacceptable stuff from the Syracuse offense and defense, really just not making the necessary plays. Well, there wasn't many good plays, but let's send it over to Nick to break down our biggest moment of the game.
Yeah, Timmy, and I think there's no question of what the biggest storyline will be coming out of this game. Yeah, you might think it's North Carolina getting the job done, but I really think it's the moment when Jimmy McCool gets pulled out of the game. This guy is the reigning ACC goalkeeper of the year, and when he sees this bullet from Soucek just fly by him, that's it. See you later. Jimmy McCool gets down to the sideline. This was the end of a 4-1 run for UNC. McCool, he is snatched up, told to go take a seat. Michael Ippoliti comes into the game and, did pretty well. He saved 67% of his shots compared to McCool's 36. And, I can totally see Ippoliti becoming the #1 starter going into next week. Like we've talked about a little bit earlier today, McCool could have been pulled against Duke last week as well. The fact that it was a 1-goal game, McCool has been really struggling in the last 5 games. And, maybe a change is necessary for this Syracuse team to reach the mountaintop. And you know what? That's the ultimate goal. But we're going to wrap up shop here on OPP after this short break. I know both Ben and Timmy have some strong opinions about today, and we're ready for them to sound off.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Well, it's hard to believe. We're already wrapping up shop here on OPP.
Oh,
We're
no.
almost at the end.
I don't
Can you
wanna.
believe it?
It's been too
know,
quick.
It's
I
been
don't
really
like
quick.
that.
It's been a fun show so far. Nicholas Waley, Ben Chadwick, Timmy Weiss with you. A big result today for UNC over Syracuse. Let's take a look at what's going on around the conference as well, because huge results for UVA over Duke, 14-10. Also, Notre Dame makes a pretty good case for them being the #1 team in the country, beating Richmond.
How about Lars Tiffany's squad over at Virginia and down in Charlottesville, taking down a really solid Duke team that gave Syracuse a run for their money just last week. You could watch that post-game show on Orange Press Pass as well. Virginia looking real scary. Man, oh man, I mean, the ACC, they're just going to keep beating up on each other all year long. Who knows who's going to make that 4-team ACC tournament? 'Cause I sure don't.
You know what's crazy is Duke might not make the NCAA tournament, and they were undefeated going into that game with Syracuse. That's how good the ACC is. You look at this Notre Dame team beating Richmond. I really thought the Spiders were the real deal, and Notre Dame started out up 8-0 in that game. They absolutely brought it to the Spiders. That's going to be a very tough game at the end of the season for Syracuse.
And our assumption with this game too, Timmy, was that for the Syracuse North Carolina game that we just watched, was that the winner of this game would be definitely the #1 team in the country.
And I think that is still true. I think North Carolina, I really do think North Carolina will be the #1 after this win over Syracuse. They really proved it to me today.
I think we're going to have at least 4 ACC teams, though, in the top 5, and Syracuse has to play 2 of them in the next few weeks. Because they've got UVA next week at home, second to last home game of the season, and then on the road at Notre Dame to end the regular season. And Colgate, they're no slouches of their own.
Yeah, you see the current rankings over there with number 14 Virginia and number 4 Notre Dame technically, but really that next Virginia game is going to be probably a 5 versus a 7. That Notre Dame game could end up being a 3 versus a 1, a 3 versus a 2. I mean, those are some really, really tough games that Syracuse has yet to play. And yeah, Colgate is a good team. You hope that's a breather for the Orange and the little sandwich in the middle there, but still a game that Syracuse is going to have to go out there and win with no slouch of them.
You're in danger of possibly going 1-3 in the ACC. That's not going to cut it, but it's very possible. And if that happens, I mean, who knows? Syracuse is going to be a pretty low seed in the NCAA tournament. I think at this point, there should be good, but you never know.
There's a lot to learn.
We still have a month to go in the season, but this is the here and now, and it's time for Ben and Timmy to sound off.
Yeah, let's be real, guys. There were some very tough pills for Syracuse to swallow in this game. You're not the best team in the country. We understand that. Your best player once again disappears in the biggest moment. But the toughest of them all is that your All-American goalie lost his touch and possibly his job. Jimmy McCool saved just 37% of the shots he faced today, a new season low. Now, he saved less than half the shots he's gone against in 4 of the last 5 matchups. Things got so bad today that McCool was yanked a few minutes into the second half, and his replacement outshined him on all levels. Michael Ippoliti saved 4 of the 6 shots he faced and may strike up a conversation for who is the future netminder of the Orange. And Timmy, those types of talks don't often surround future national champions.
Well, I hate to keep being a downer here, Ben, because that wasn't very good, but I'm sorry to say it. Syracuse isn't winning the national championship this season. And that's because if you look at the Orange's schedule, everyone talks about how tough the schedule is for Syracuse, right? Well, if you look at the current rankings, Syracuse has not beat a team in the top 10 current rankings right now. Sure, they beat Maryland when they were the #1 team, but they're actually the number 12 team in the country now. They were blown out by Princeton, who's the #5 team, and they were blown out today against UNC, who could be the #1 team in the country. They also lost to Harvard, the #7 team in the country. Duke, who is the #8 team in the country, is going to end up outside of the top 10 after their loss to Virginia. So is Syracuse's schedule actually as tough as it's talked about? Or can the Orange just really not beat the best of the best? And to do that, you got to do it.
And certainly the next test is not too much easier against the UVA team, like we mentioned, that just beat Duke. That is our next OPP coming up next Saturday. crazy that this Cavaliers team got some pretty good numbers, it has to be said.
They had a rough start to the season too, Nick, but man, oh man, that offense is daunting. And we know how Syracuse fares against good offenses. I think we watched it an hour or two ago on the field down there in Chapel Hill, so it should be very interesting.
And we think this Syracuse offense is a top 10, top 5 team in the country.
I think it still is. It's just concerning that today, all the problems you talked about earlier in the season kind of rose up again. So if they can solve that, then they're good. But I don't know. Now you ask the question, can they do it against the best teams?
Certainly nip and tuck. And, well, certainly going to be a very interesting end to the regular season. That's all the time we have for here on Orange Press Box. For Ben Chadwick and Timmy Weiss, I'm Nicholas Waley. Thank you so much for tuning in.